something, the kids, everybody enjoyed it. My son's kids, they'll come across and ready.
Ready? 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 Guys good? Guys are good? All right, it is 6 o'clock. It's 6:01. I'm going to call this meeting in order. I am Matthew Pianka, the chair of the Zoning Hearing Board. I'm along here with Miss Joanne Gray and Mr. Claude Phipps, also with the City's Law Bureau and the Zoning Administrator, Mr. Jeffrey Knight. I'd like to note that there's a court reporter present. The court reporter is here because the Zoning Hearing Board is more formal than the Planning Commission. The court reporter is making a transcript in the event of an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. The Zoning Hearing Board is like a court of law. The Zoning Hearing Board's decisions must be based on fact and law, not on the popularity or unpopularity of the project or what seems to the board to be a good or bad project. In other words, the applicant must meet a legal burden of proof that proves the elements of a variance or special exception. The law is the city's zoning code and the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. To any audience members out there, and anyone who resides or owns property close to the subject property and has something legally relevant to say, they will have an opportunity to speak. Audience members must speak one at a time and must not interrupt the testimony that's being transcribed by the court reporter. We have one continued case tonight. That is Old Business 2558.
It is. Mr. Chairman, we received a email from counsel for the applicant. It's dated Tuesday, August 15, 2023, requesting a continuance for this matter to the September 18th, 2023 meeting, which will meet at 6 o'clock p.m. I marked that continuance request as Exhibit A2.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to continue. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Gray. All in favor? Aye. Motion, the case is continued. So that brings up our only case tonight, number 2559, the variance application for 222 Chestnut Street. Would the solicitor please read into the record the documents that are in the city's file?
Mr. Chairman, I have pre-marked for expediency's sake the following documents and have marked them as follows. Board Exhibit Number 1, B1, is the proof of publication. The time and place and a particular nature of this application was published in the Patriot News, which is a newspaper of general circulation. Publication occurred on August 6th, 2023 and August 13th, 2023. Exhibit B2 is the letter dated August 14, 2023, which was sent from the planning director to counsel for the applicant, notifying the applicant of the time and place of the hearing. Board Exhibit Number 3 is the hearing notice posted upon the property in question, which was accomplished on July 25th, 2023. Board Exhibit Number 4 is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to required neighbors. Board Exhibit Number 5 is the application with a supporting narrative. Board Exhibit Number 6 are 9 photographs on 9 pages, and they're photographs of the property in question. Board Exhibit Number 7 are plans for the proposed wall signs, and that consist of 3 pages. Board Exhibit Number 8 are the deeds establishing applicants standing to pursue zoning relief relative to the property in question. Board Exhibit Number 9 is the Planning Bureau case report, and Board Exhibit Number 10 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So I have as marked, Mr. Chairman, Boards Exhibit 1 through 10.
Thank you. Now I'm going to swear in the zoning administrator. Jeff, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, and if you could please briefly summarize the case, the issues, and what the city's position is on the case.
Mr. Chairman, on this, just to make clear, this is, I think, a little different because this is an appeal, right, from a zoning hearing board, zoning determination.
With a
with a variance and all the alternatives. So this is the right way to proceed as you are, but in these cases where there's an appeal, the city will have the burden, they would go first.
Well, we are treating this as a variance with, I guess, an appeal in the alternative, because actually no appeal application was filed. The appeal was filed within the variance application itself. And so because no appeal application was formally filed, we treated this only as a variance because the formal process for an appeal was not followed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that there's an appeal application.
Okay, my mistake then.
Yep.
Sorry.
available, I mean.
I thought there was an appeal on the determination.
Mr. Pykosh, I agree with you. I think that it is an appeal with a variance in the alternative. What I'm saying is the city does not have an appeal application available online for someone to file. So we included it with our variance
Okay.
application.
We'll just proceed and just present all the evidence, then we'll go from there.
Okay. So the applicant's proposing to install 3 wall signs on the property, which is more than permitted by right, and each wall sign is larger than permitted by right. Per section 7-325.6 of the zoning code, wall signage in the DC district is limited to 75 square feet. The applicant is proposing to install wall signs of 448 square feet, which is sign 1 or Southern UPMC sign, 252 square feet, which is sign 2 or Western UPMC sign, and 155 square feet, which is sign 3 or the Eastern HU sign. Additionally, wall signage on corner properties is limited to 1 sign per building facade. So the case before the zoning hearing board tonight is for both the number of signs permitted and the size of the signs. As we just discussed, I think there's probably a little disagreement between the number of signs permitted, but I think the applicant is in agreement that the size of the signs would be a variance application. The city is treating them both as variance applications, and so that's the way we went through our review, and that's kind of the way the Planning Commission treated it as well. So obviously the building is Harrisburg University's recently finished new construction downtown at the corner of South 3rd Street and Chestnut Street. And so as part of that project, they're proposing signage on 2 of the facades. It was originally 3 of the facades, but they relocated one of the signs. They did not change the size of that sign, just its location. So it's only on 2 of the sides, the western and the northern side of the property, I believe. And, the city basically sees this as it's a large building. The sign, and before I go into that, I'll just note that there are 2 different entities being advertised through this sign, and I'm sure the applicants will discuss kind of the relationship between those 2 entities and why there's 2 entities on the signs. But the Planning Bureau essentially sees this as, keeping with the both the size of signage and the aesthetic of signs elsewhere on other larger buildings in downtown. The signage, the building is about 14 stories tall. And the signs are all going to be located about at the top of the facades. So, we feel that a sign larger than the 75 square feet permitted by right is reasonable, given the distance that people will be seeing it, not only from maybe across the river or from Interstate 83, but also standing at the street level and being able to look up and see the signs. If it were 75 square feet, it might be really difficult. I think in their testimony at the Planning Commission, they also referenced the kind of drive time that you're able to see the signs if you're on, going down Chestnut Street or perhaps South 3rd Street. And so the signs need to be large enough for somebody to see them pretty quickly while in a car, so they're not, taking their eyes off the road for too long. So given the location of the signs at the top of the building, those other factors about visibility and the presence of other signage that's larger than permitted by right and of similar size to the proposed signs on similarly sized buildings in the downtown area, we feel that the request for signage larger than permitted by right is reasonable. We also believe that the number of signs is reasonable, given that the building is visible from pretty much all four facades, which is not always the case, being especially in the downtown where you have a lot of attached buildings. But in this case, given the height of the building, all four facades are visible to the public. Also being that the applicant will be basically has an agreement with UPMC through a partnership that they have. We feel that having more than just like one sign for each entity is reasonable in that regard. So with that being said, the Planning Commission recommended that the zoning hearing board approve the request for the following reasons. While the Planning Bureau disagrees with the applicant's interpretation of the zoning code and appeal regarding the allowable number of signs, it does agree that the building and site possess unique conditions that justify the requested variances, specifically regarding the height of the building, the square footage of the building facades, and the building's location within a downtown neighborhood featuring similarly sized buildings and accompanying wall signage. And also that the proposed signage will be elevated at the top of the building and thus will have minimal impact on adjacent properties and the general public, particularly at ground level. The signage is located at an elevation above the height of all surrounding buildings, and in the case of the Eastern EU sign, it was originally on a building facade setback from the property line, but that was the one that was relocated to the western facade. But regardless, any impacts from the lighting on adjacent properties will be minimal or negligible.
Thank you. I'm now going to swear, or you guys have already stepped forward. I'd like to swear in the applicants. If you could all, everyone who's going to speak, if you could each state your names, your addresses, and your business titles, and then I will swear you all in at once.
Ash McCombie with McNeese, Wallace and Nurick, 100 Pine Street, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Ryan Riley, Vice President for Advancement, Harrisburg University, 326 Market Street.
TJ Joseph, Advanced Sign Company, 2121 Robinson Boulevard. I sure can. It's DE, capital J, OS, EPH. Advanced Sign Company, 2121 Robinson Boulevard, Pittsburgh, PA 15221, and I'm the owner.
Hi, my name is Chris Ayer, Senior Director of Construction for UPMC, 307 South Front Street, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. H-A-R-E.
And if you could all please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All affirmative. If you could please describe the project.
Sure thing. Good evening again. My name is Ash McCombie with McNeese. We represent Harrisburg University. With respect to the zoning application that's before all of you this evening, I'll give a brief overview. We'll touch on the appeal. Ryan, to my right, with Harrisburg University, will talk about the property, the building, and the need for the sign. And then TJ will touch on the sign design and layout. And then Chris will wrap things up with some perspective from UPMC as well. We have 4 exhibits total, which I will hand out a packet just to make things a little easier when you're flipping through.
Thank you, sir. Are these already in? Thanks, Ash.
I think some of them are going to be duplicates, but some of them were changed. As Mr. Knight alluded to, we moved the position of one sign, so what you have may not be the same. All right. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the construction of Harrisburg University's new building at Chestnut and Third. The official opening is next month, and we're very excited about it. We hope it's had a noticeable and positive effect on the city's skyline. The principal users of the building are Harrisburg University and UPMC, and they would like signage on the building that's consistent with the building size and visibility throughout the area. Therefore, we're seeking a dimensional variance from section 7-325, attachment 1, to permit wall signs larger than 75 feet. In addition, we are appealing the zoning officer's interpretation of section 7-325, attachment 1, that would limit the number of permitted signs to 2. In the alternative to that, we are seeking a variance from that same section to permit 3 signs. If the variance were to be approved, we would withdraw the appeal. I'll touch very briefly on the appeal because I don't think it needs to be the heart of this matter. Like I said, we're happy to withdraw it if we're able. And it's outlined in detail in the narrative if you had a chance to look that over. But the bottom line is, the zoning code states a building in the DC district is permitted to have 1 wall sign per lot or 1 per lot per building facade for corner properties. 1 per building facade for corner properties. It's our position that this building has 4 facades. Each side of the building is visible. Each side of the building has treatments. It has windows. It's not attached going the whole way up. And since you can see all 4 sides of the building, you can see all 4 facades, it would be our interpretation then that the ordinance would allow 4 signs. Mr. Knight interpreted it differently, and that's why, 1, we've appealed, and 2, we've submitted the variance and the alternative. If there are any questions on the appeal, I'm happy to answer them now, but otherwise, we can move right along to Mr. Riley's testimony. Three signs. On 2 facades. Yep. Yeah, the original application, as Jeff mentioned, had 3 signs on 3 different facades. The Harrisburg University sign has now been moved to the same facade as one of the UPMC signs.
On the western and the northern side of the building. I'm sure you'll get to this, but just so we know, which side is going to have the 2 sides?
The northern
2.
side would have 1, the western side would have 2.
Okay. Got it. I understand now.
All right? Ryan, what's your role with Harrisburg University?
Sure. I serve as the Vice President for University Advancement.
And what do you do in that role generally?
Sure. So I support the university's external priorities around fundraising, government relations, community relations, corporate relations, and our work with our alumni and commencement.
And are you familiar with the property that we're discussing?
Yes.
Approximately how many acres is the property?
It is 0.66 acres.
Does it more or less take up the entire corner block?
It
Corner
takes
of
up,
the block?
the entire corner. The old Brico parking lot and then 2 buildings we had removed.
Does HU own 222 Chestnut Street?
Yes,
And that's the property?
correct.
How many floors does the building have?
It has 11 floors, but the building is about 12 stories because of mechanicals.
And approximately how many square feet is the building?
240,000.
And in general, how's the building used?
So the building has 2 main academic programs in it. Advanced manufacturing occupies 2 floors. That is an expansion of a major the university has. And then the remaining floors, the majority of the building is dedicated to health science programs. Nursing, physical therapy, exercise science, pharmacology are the larger programs.
And how's UPMC involved?
Sure. So UPMC has been a partner in the design phase of the building, and then also in the academic programs. They lead all of the nursing instruction. And so they are an anchor partner. The Shadyside School of Nursing is headquartered in that building, along with the nursing faculty and the students.
And so as part of that arrangement, part of the arrangement is that they would have signage on the building because of their significant involvement?
Correct, yes. They're part of, they're leasing substantial space in the building. They're partnering on some projects in our skills lab and naming on the building as part of that.
And approximately how many nursing students does HU expect to graduate this year?
We're going to welcome in about 240 new nursing students next week. It's the largest nursing school for UPMC in the state. Assuming they all do well, we hope to graduate all of them. But it is an aggressive diploma program, 16 months, and so we hope to graduate at least 200.
That's great. When was the building completed?
The building was completed in December of January of 23.
And approximately when did construction start?
February of 2020,
So right in the middle of COVID?
right before COVID, yeah. about
Or
2
right,
weeks.
yeah. And was construction of the building then affected by the pandemic?
It has, much of what's been widely reported, material shortages, labor challenges. In one case, we had a significant delay with our switchgear, which was the system that disperses the electricity in the building. Was about 18 months delayed, so we had some.
Got it. And then that increased the costs as well?
It did. Along the way, we had to make some value engineered decisions.
Great. Before you now is Exhibit A2. If the board could turn to the first page of that packet. What is it?
So the red dot is our building.
And is that generally an aerial image of the neighborhood around the building?
It is, yeah.
And based on your knowledge of the neighborhood, is north towards the top? Up?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yep, right above, like aligned with the Whitaker Center that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which streets are there at the intersection?
Chestnut and Third Street.
And then does the building also have frontage along Blackberry Street to the west?
It does.
If you could turn to page 2 of Exhibit A2, what does it depict?
That depicts the north side, I guess the northeast side of the building.
Okay, and so down at the very bottom of the picture, then you have the Whitaker Center, and
Yep, the Whitaker.
just to help orient the board to where we are.
Correct.
And in that picture, we can see 2 sides of the building, is that correct?
Yep, yes.
If you could turn to image 3 of A2. Does that again show the property with the red pin?
It does,
And are we now looking west toward the Capitol?
correct.
And based on that image, can we see the other 2 sides of the building?
Yes.
And so based on these images that we just looked at, in your opinion, are the building's walls entirely covered by abutting buildings, or are facades of the building visible on all 4 sides?
The facades are visible by all 4 sides. I mean, there's some coverage at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
but not at the top.
And are all 4 sides of the building visible from street level?
Yes,
And in your opinion, does the building have architectural treatments on all 4 sides, such as windows, balconies, those types of things?
it does.
How would you describe the neighborhood?
Well, this is, I actually, when I came to Harrisburg, we had relocated. I lived in Pennsylvania Place for about 9 months. It's a very dense part of the city, a lot of housing, a lot of students housing. The proximity of the hospital is pretty close. So I would say that, the neighborhood is pretty busy. It's sort of the entry to the city.
Would you call it like an urban or downtown feel?
Yes.
Is there many commercial businesses, small or large, and offices in the area as well?
There are. There's a number of offices, state buildings. I will say despite, the challenge of the pandemic and some closures of restaurants, there's a lot of shops opening, especially in Strawberry Square and around there. But yeah, there's a high walking traffic. And obviously, our students, when we're in session, are around it a lot.
And the commercial buildings in the area, are they generally smaller than Harrisburg University's building?
Yeah,
And do they have signs, wall signs?
they do.
Have you reviewed the narrative that was submitted with the application?
I did,
And to the extent applicable, do you adopt the comments made therein as your own?
yes.
Great. So before I call TJ up to talk a little bit more detail about the signs, are there any questions for Mr. Riley? Great. Thanks. You mind switching seats? Yeah, come on up here. TJ, how long have you worked in the sign industry?
In December this year, it'll be 21 years.
And what is your position with Advance?
I'm the owner.
What does Advance do?
We're a full-service sign company, meaning we design, permit, manufacture, and install under one roof.
And how long has Advance been working with UPMC?
A little over 15 years.
And did Advance help design the signage we're discussing tonight?
We did.
And have you been a part of that process probably for hundreds of signs in your career?
That's probably a safe number, yes.
Does the sign design include determining appropriate sizing so that a sign is readable while still, I can't talk tonight, excuse me, still aesthetically pleasing?
It does.
So I'd like to offer Mr. Joseph as an expert in sign design and fabrication.
Accepted.
Thank you. If you could please turn to Exhibit A3 in your packet. Mr. DeJoseph, what is that?
That's the representative sizing for the proposed sign on the north elevation.
North, that's correct, yeah. If you would note, please, in the record that it states south elevation on page 1 of A3, but it's actually the north elevation. What's the approximate area of that sign?
448 square feet,
And how tall are the UPMC letters for that sign?
72 inches, 6 feet.
And does page 2 of Exhibit A3 show the UPMC sign for the western elevation?
It does.
And approximately, how many square feet is that sign?
252.
And how tall are the UPMC letters for that sign?
4 feet, 6 inches.
And then finally, does page 3 of Exhibit A3 show the HU sign on that same western elevation?
It does.
And what's the approximate area of that sign? Would you disagree with me if I told you it was approximately 155 square feet?
I see my notes now. Yes, it is 155 square feet.
So we're looking at in the range of 85 inches in height by 21 feet, 10 inches in width. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Or 21 feet, 10 inches in, yeah. Thank you. So how did you determine the appropriate size of these signs?
We generally use an inch for every 20 feet for readability.
Is that an inch of height?
Correct, thank you. An inch in height, letter height. That's just one of the factors. We take the branding from the clients, scale it to the building, compare that to what we think is visually pleasing versus how it compares on the readability charts, and try to find a happy medium. In this case, we showed the clients signs of larger heights than what are being shown here today. We just didn't feel that they were appropriate, given the architecture and the size of the buildings. So we recommended the sizes we're showing today, and they agreed.
And so in your opinion, then, it sounds like the signs could have been larger based off of your 1 inch 1 inch for every 20 feet of distance, because these signs can be seen from very far away.
That's correct.
And rather than go with very, very large signs, Harrisburg University and UPMC chose to use smaller signs that fit better to the scale of the building.
That's correct, yes.
In your opinion, are these signs about the smallest they can be while still being effective as part of the skyline and visible from the streets?
I do.
How are the signs illuminated?
LED modules inside each letter.
So internally illuminated?
Correct, yes.
And are they adjustable, dimmable?
Yes, through a dimmer.
Thank you. If we'll go to Exhibit A4. Could you describe to the board what A4 shows?
It's a rendering of the west elevation.
And so, looking at the building now, we have, on the left side, the UPMC sign, is that correct?
Correct,
And on the right side, the Harrisburg University sign?
yes.
And that's in the new proposed location as referenced by Mr. Knight, that we had changed during the planning commission meeting, correct?
That's right.
And could you just kind of walk the board briefly through the remaining pages of A4?
Page 2 is, again, a rendering, but this time of the north elevation, showing the UPMC sign as depicted on page 1 of A3. And I believe this is just yeah, this is looking northeast from Second Street. Same elevation.
And so these are renderings of what the signs would look like once they're on the building, correct?
That's right.
And sheet 4 of A4,
Looking east from Market Street.
so you can see the downtown deli on the bottom left for a point of reference. And then lastly, the 5th page.
Another vantage point, this time from Third Street at Market Street.
So these were provided to give the board an idea of what you would see when you're walking down the street for some context. Are these signs generally consistent with the signage in the surrounding neighborhood?
They are.
And what do you think smaller signs would look like? If they were,
Lost.
thank you. And will the proposed variances permit reasonable use of the property? In your
Yes.
opinion? And in your opinion, will the signs be detrimental to the neighborhood?
No,
Will they be detrimental to the public welfare?
no,
And have you reviewed the narrative that was submitted with the application?
I have.
And to the extent applicable, do you adopt the comments made therein as your own?
I do, yes.
Are there any questions for Mr. DeJoseph? Yes, please.
So I just want to, just so, for clarity, going back to A4, the first page is the western elevation because we said that there was 2 signs there, and we see 2 signs, right?
That's correct.
That's the western. I just want to know what page is what elevation, so that when we go through, okay, so A4 is the western elevation. Page 2 is
North,
the northern, okay. Third page,
this is still the north.
No, that's west.
This, yeah, west, except it, in this from this vantage point, it's not showing the Harrisburg sign, just the UPMC sign.
right, okay, but it's the west.
Yep.
And then page 5,
Yeah, west and west,
west,
yes. The last 2 pages both.
okay. And you can't see the Harrisburg sign, but you can see the UPMC sign.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to, for clarity.
Sure.
Oh, and then, okay, so then the next page is what?
The west, the last 2 pages of the.
Or is
package.
west, okay.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. DeJoseph? Thank you. And then lastly, Chris Hare. Chris, what's your role with UPMC?
I'm the Senior Director of Construction,
And how long have you been with UPMC?
10 years in June.
And I think you just had some comments that you wanted to offer.
Yeah, we're excited to collaborate with Harrisburg University. It really was good timing with UPMC's integration and the opportunity to get nurses and clinicians into our hospital is, very desirable. There's obviously a shortage of nurses. That's nothing, not surprising to anyone. So having this opportunity and being able to pull from Pittsburgh the setup that they've had with the School of Nursing and having a place to put it has been really good. We're excited about it.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris?
I have one. I never been asking one question. I see this is a partnership between UPMC and Harrisburg University. When I look at the scale of what's going on here, who's the parent here? Is it UPMC or is it Harrisburg University Board of City?
Yeah.
It's a survey, because again, when I look at the signage, it's great, but it says UPMC and Harrisburg University. It's like a also ran, and I am sorry to put it that way, but it's just how the presentation, how I look at the presentation.
Sure thing, Mr. Phipps. I think Ryan testified earlier that 2 floors or two and a half floors are used by Harrisburg University solely. UPMC's nursing operations and related things are on the remaining floors, so 2/3 plus, 75% maybe is, yeah.
UPMC funded the development and the construction. Okay. They have a right to basically get their name on it if they want. Okay, thank you.
I mean, nothing to really add to any of the testimony from the applicants or the witnesses there.
One of which would be a UPMC, one of which would be a Harrisburg University, and one on the northern side, which is UPMC sign, and then there's the dimensional variance request for the size. So that's, am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
There doesn't seem to be any conditions on this either. No. All right, is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak? All right. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the variance. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Phipps. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And with do we have to do anything with the appeal then?
Is that for both variances? The
Yes.
size and number?
Yes.
I think, well,
If that was for both, we will withdraw the appeal.
That was for both.
Yeah, I thought the appeal, since
For-
they didn't
for
file
both of
appeal,
them.
work on appeal, so this covers everything.
right. That covered both.
That covered both. Yes.
As long as we're all in agreement, the variance was for both 3 signs and to allow the
That was for
larger
3 signs
size.
and the size,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
And, okay, so there's no appeal?
No, we'll withdraw our appeal, and I'll send an email to Mike and Jeff confirming that tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Seconded by Mr. Phipps, all in favor? Aye. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time.